So if you need to replace a burr, usually the mill will tell you while the crown is being made. Sometimes it'll interrupt a crown halfway and say you need to replace the burr. And again, usually you're prompted by the mill. However, if you had for some reason maybe skipped burr replacement, I would suggest still replacing the burr. The diamond grit wears off over time, and usually if the mill tells you it's at 0%, there's a reason for it. So if you need to manually replace the burr, you need to make sure that the mill is in burr changing mode. Otherwise you won't be able to get the old burrs out. In order to get to burr changing mode, go up in the chairside software. You might be able to do this from Connect, but just in case, chairside software, open this top bar, click on configuration, go to devices and mill, and at the bottom you're going to hit change instruments. Click on the set of instruments you're trying to replace. Usually one set is for zirconia, the other set is for Emax. So at this time we're trying to replace one of the Emax burrs. These percentages are usually pretty accurate, but if you have bypassed when it tells you to replace the burr, it'll reset to 100% even if you haven't reset the burr. So make sure to keep track of that and click start. This should put the motors in the mill into burr changing mode, and then we will go over to the mill and I'll show you how to replace them. Alright, so we're at the mill now. It has received input from the scanner that we're replacing these burrs. We want to replace the left burr at this time. Again, ignore the percentage just for this exercise, but you're going to click it and then you're going to open things up, and there are little wrenches down here that you're going to want to use. It's very important because there are 2 wrenches to make sure that you're using the one that has the shape that corresponds to that shape. And for all intents and purposes, it's always the triangle shaped one, but just double check. Triangle matches triangle. That may be hard to see, but it's a triangle. Wrench, similar to when you put a block in and out there, you're going to want to rotate until it loosens. And if you hear it click, that means you're going the wrong way. The click means you're tightening, and the click is your feedback to let you know that you've tightened it all the way. But once you loosen it a little bit, you can kind of get it out by hand. And then, so the fresh burrs, if they're not in here, they're probably in the drawer below here. Today they are. You're going to want to find the corresponding burr, which is the step burr 12S. And we usually should have some. We want to always have backups of these. Right now, I'm opening it and there's only 2 left. So right off the bat, I would order another set of them. I think they come as a 5 or 6 pack. But putting this one in leaves us with 1, and anything could happen. It could chip, it could break, and sometimes we go through them quicker than you would expect. But you're going to place it in there. You're going to do a little hand tighten until you get it hand tight. And then you're going to take that wrench again. This is very important. Just like when you put blocks in there, you have to tighten it until you hear that click. Be careful when you put the wrench in here not to kind of scratch up the diamond coating on there. It's even more important on this tiny little burr. When you put the wrench on there, you could literally bend it and you could break it. So just carefully guide this on. Make sure it seats triangle to triangle. And rotate once, rotate twice. Eventually we'll get our little click. Yep. And I, for some reason, like to get a second click. I never trust that first one. I don't know why. But that's it. And then you're just going to hit green check to tell it that it has been replaced. Close the lid. And now it's good to go. And going back to what I was saying earlier, sometimes if you go into the settings and put it in burr changing mode, the motors, what they do is they'll rotate into place. They usually try to rotate until they touch that little button there. And that button is what prevents the motors from freely spinning. Like right now, because it's not in burr changing mode, that is freely spinning. If it does get put in burr changing mode and it is still freely spinning, again, that's an indicator that something's wrong with this little button here. There are ways to bypass it. Mostly what that means is you have to use your finger to touch the button on here and lock the motor in place. It's not something I've ever had success with, and it usually doesn't happen very often. Usually if it happens, we just have Henry Schein come out and do a little maintenance and fix this button, which kind of gets crusted up from zirconia dust. But I wouldn't expect that to happen. However, if it does, there is a way around it. But usually the motors will rotate into position and the burrs will get locked, and you can do what you need to do.